At her wedding entrance, my sister hung a giant banner of my face with no entry in bold. I called Mom. She sighed. We have to look like a perfect family. That means without you. I had paid $14,200 toward the venue, catering, and band. I just whispered gifts at the gate. 20 minutes later, she ran out in heels, opened the box, and froze. She expected keys to the apartment. But she found a note that said, "My name is Emily. I am 31, oldest kid, designated driver, the one who keeps a trunk toolkit because something is always loose. I work in facilities for an office park, schedules, contractors, invoices, basically making sure other people's big days happen without a squeak. I live above a laundromat. I like it. The hum is steady, predictable. In my family, I am the reliable one, which over time became the wallet, which over more time became the problem when I said no. My sister June is 28 and the center of every room. She's quick with a toast, big with the gestures, and somehow always in the photo where light lands best. Mom calls her our miracle. If I ask, what's the plan? Mom says I'm being negative. If June says, I have a vision, Mom tells her she's a genius. On the day of June's wedding, I parked in a gravel lot in a navy suit that fit and a tie that didn't. The venue was one of those barns that used to hold hay, but now serves $1,120 a plate chicken. I walked the path lined with mason jars, carrying a box wrapped in plain white paper and a card that said, "For you both, easy, quiet." I had rehearsed being scenery. The welcome arch was draped in chiffon and eucalyptus. Under it was a sign in pretty lettering, "Choose a seat, not a side." Above it, stretched from post to post, was a vinyl banner the size of a garage door. It was my face. Not a good one. I'd candided it from Thanksgiving, mid-blank, over my eyes, with bold black font and O entry in the bottom corner, small. She knows why. It took my brain a few seconds to decide if I was looking at a prank. A bridesmaid gasped, laughed, someone's uncle took a selfie, the coordinator in a headset froze, then pretended not to see. A little boy asked his mother, "Is that the bad guy?" She shushed him. I stood there, bright sun on a cartoon of myself, feeling my ears get hot. I called Mom. She picked up on the first ring and sighed, like I had already started a fight. "Emily, please, not today. What is this? We have to look like a perfect family," she said, voice low, almost bored. "That means without you. You hung a banner with my face that says I can't come." "Don't be dramatic. Your sister needs peace. You cause ripples." "I cause ripples," I repeated. "The photographer is here," she said. "We'll talk next week." She hung up. My phone buzzed again immediately. "June, don't make this weird. Consider this my boundary. Dad, son, please just give today to your sister." The groomsman with a walkie approached like he'd drawn the short straw. "Hey, I'm supposed to escort you out." He winced. "Could you wait by the lot?" "We'll figure it out." I put the box down on a bench because my hands felt too heavy. I could taste penny metal in my mouth. I thought about the line items I'd covered over the last 2 months because it was easier if you just handle it. Venue deposit, caterer retainer, first half for the band. I had the receipts in my bag because I'm that person. I told myself I wasn't going to think about that here. Not yet. A woman I didn't know whispered, "Wow, she really did it to her friend." Her friend whispered back, "Iconic." I picked up the box again. My fingers had stopped shaking. I called Mom one more time. "Emily," she said, exasperated. "Okay," I said. Okay, I repeated, and hung up. The security guy was watching me, unsure if he should be gentle or firm. I gave him a small smile. "The gift's at the gate," I said, and set the box on the welcome table beside the programs. He nodded like he didn't want to be in whatever this was. I turned, walked back to my car, and sat behind the wheel with the window cracked, the smell of cut grass sliding in. I didn't drive away. I didn't cause a scene. I inhaled until my ribs hurt and exhaled until the penny taste faded. My phone buzzed again, texts stacking, judgments arriving. I put it face down on the passenger seat and watched a bee fight a peony in the flower bed. The first trigger had landed. I didn't move toward money, not yet. I just sat very still and realized I had finally learned the difference between being a problem and having a boundary. The banner didn't come out of nowhere. It grew like mold quietly over time in warm corners where no one wanted to look. If you rewind our family long enough, you can see the outline. When we were kids, June broke a window with a softball. Mom took photos of our little athlete, then passed around cupcakes. When I dented the minivan at 16, Dad made me call insurance and pay the deductible from my summer job. Builds character, he said. Mom added, "Your sister's sensitive. Don't scold her." June was 13. By high school, I had 2 part-time jobs and a bank app, one checked like weather. June had a vision board and a string of posts captioned, "Big things coming." When I asked for a graphing calculator, Mom said, "Use your brain." When June asked for a ring light, Mom said, "Invest in yourself." I learned to be useful. I learned that being useful meant being quiet. At 22, I had a savings account labeled down payment. And because I'm honest, another labeled family. Mom called that one bridge money because we're all a team. June called it, "Can you do the thing?" The thing was, pay a deposit, spot a fee, handle a bill. I kept a spreadsheet. It made me feel like choices were choices, not patterns. June fell in love with Ryan, who says, "Boss lady without irony." He's not the villain of this story. He's just the kind of man who grabs the check when cameras are around and forgets his wallet when they aren't. They got engaged under twinkle lights. Mom cried like it was a movie. Dad stood with his hands in his pockets like he was auditioning for supportive father number 2. A week later, Mom sent me a calendar invite, venue tour. I asked what the budget was. She said, "Don't be small." At the barn, the manager walked us through words like rustic, charm, and signature cocktail. June spun in the aisle like she owned the air. The quote made my stomach clench. Mom said, "It's a once-in-a-lifetime day." June emailed me a spreadsheet titled, "Our Big Day" with tabs. Venue, catering, band, florals, photo booth, extras. There was also a tab called Sponsors at the top. Primary Emily, Big Sister, followed by a winky face. I called her. "Take that off. You're good with money." She said, "It's just logistics. You'll handle deposits. We'll Venmo you. Promise." "No," she laughed. "Don't be stingy. You make more than me." That's the part that never gets said out loud but is always there. You make more than me. Therefore, your money is our money. It slips under doors like a draft. I said no again. Mom called. "Sweetie, it's easier if you just handle some of it. We'll all pitch in." "We won't," I said. "We never do." "Don't be cruel," she said softly. Mom's weapon has always been the word cruel. She hangs it around your neck and waits for you to pull it off. I covered the venue deposit. I told myself I wasn't caving. I was choosing a gift. I covered the caterer retainer because the manager called me and said the date would get released otherwise. Mom said, "You're our hero." June posted a story of a charcuterie board and tagged me, then took it down 5 minutes later. I guess heroes aren't aesthetic. Then the little additions started. A late-night taco bar, no one forgets tacos, a neon sign, a live painter. Each came with a screenshot and a time-sensitive caption. "They can hold it if we pay by today." I started saying no. Mom texted, "You always were rigid." Dad texted thumbs-up emojis from work like that counted. Ryan said, "We'll hit you when I get my bonus." June said, "Just the band half, please. You know they'll book out." I looked at my family tab, sighed, and sent the wire. By the time we were 3 weeks out, I had put $14,200 toward the day. I kept a separate folder in my email with subject lines like contract bar number 1475, caterer retainer receipt, band deposit, Jeremy and Company. Each one had my name as contracting party because it's simpler. Simpler means we're going to use your credit score instead of dealing with our own. The first time someone suggested I shouldn't attend, it was a joke. We were at June's apartment for a planning night. She had a whiteboard with vibe written across the top. No drama, no downers, no Emily frown laughter. I smiled because sometimes the only other choice is to flip the table. Halfway through, June said too casually, "So the planner thinks it might be best if you sit this one out." "Sit what out?" I said. "The day," she said, eyes on her list. "You and Ryan don't gel, and you're intense. It hurts the vibe." Mom didn't look up. "Optics matter, sweetie. We have to look like a perfect family without me." I said, "Don't be a martyr." She said, "You can do the rehearsal dinner or the brunch." I stared at the whiteboard in the corner under payments. My name was written next to 3 lines. Mom saw me looking and put her hand over it like the problem was visibility. I drove home and sat in the parking lot until the radio host said the next hour's sponsor was a mattress company. The absurdity helped. I made 2 lists on my phone. Still gift the things I had already committed to and could sleep with. Withdraw everything else. At the bottom, I wrote a sentence that didn't feel like me yet. No entry means no access. I called the venue manager the next day and asked boring questions about contracting rights and what happens if the sponsor withdraws. He said words like transfer of responsibility, reduction of services, COD. I called the caterer and asked what parts were covered and what could be dropped. I called the band and learned that the second set wasn't locked until the final payment. My friend Tessa, who is a lawyer, texted, "You're the contracting party. If they bar you, you can withdraw, but do it clean. For you, not to them." I wrote back, "I get it." I did not yet. 1 week out, I got an email from the venue. Per bride request. We'll have a sign that says sponsored by Big Sister. Is that okay? It was like they were daring me to see the whole picture. I wrote back, "No. Remove any signage with my name ever." June sent me a selfie 2 nights before the wedding. Her in a robe, hair up, glowing. "Big day soon," she wrote. "Then let's not fight. Stay in your lane and it'll be perfect. My lane has always been the one with a toll booth." The morning of the wedding, I tied my tie twice. I put the receipts in my bag, not because I wanted a battle, but because I knew who I was dealing with. I taped a sentence inside my wallet on a scrap of paper. This isn't about revenge. This is about closure. It looked ridiculous next to my insurance card. It looked like a new spine. I didn't plan the banner. I planned what happens when someone hangs a sign with your face and tells the world you're the punchline. I sat in my car with the window cracked, the box on the seat, and the smell of cut grass coming in. I opened my email app and took the drafted message out of drafts. Subject: Withdrawal of sponsorship contract number 1475. To Barn Manager. Per today's events, I'm withdrawing all further payments as contracting party for venue, catering add-ons, and band second set. I have been denied entry to the event I'm sponsoring. Please transfer all remaining balances to the bride/groom and/or reduce services accordingly. Any attempt to charge my card will be disputed. Send. I called the manager. He answered on the second ring, already in a whisper. "Hi, Emily. I sent you an email." "We got it," I said. He said, "We'll need a card from someone else by 3. "You will?" I said. Next. The caterer. "Hey, Emily," she said like we were friends now. "We're plating apps. I'm withdrawing from add-ons and dessert." I said, "Serve what's covered. The rest is good." "Understood." She said, "Caterers are the calmest people on earth. We'll take a card from the bride. Next, the band." "Big man," Jeremy said. "Ready to rock. Cancel the second set unless the groom pays you." I said, "Do not charge my card again." He whistled. "Yikes, what happened?" They hung a banner with my face that said, "No entry." He made a noise like he bumped into a glass door. "Dude, yeah," I said. I texted June. Gifts at the gate. It was petty and also polite. The box really did have a gift, a small ceramic piece she'd pointed at in a boutique once. On top of it, in an envelope, was a printed note that said exactly what I had sent to the vendors. Final payment reversed. Contract voided. Sponsorship withdrawn. I set the box on the welcome table. The security guy watched me like he wasn't paid enough for symbolism. "It's just a present," I said. 20 minutes later, June came running in heels, dress scooped in one hand, phone in the other. Bridesmaids flapping behind her. She tore the ribbon like she was mad at it. Opened in the box, saw the statue, tossed the tissue aside, and then read the note. Her face went from anger to confusion to blank. I'd only seen that once before, when Dad told her no and meant it. "What is this?" she said. "My boundary," I said. "You can't unpay," she said. "I can withdraw from what I haven't paid yet," I said. "You're ruining my day. You bar me from it," she said. "I did," I said. "The money came with me." Mom appeared like weather. "Emily," she said, voice low and dangerous. "Fix this." "No," I said. Dad hovered behind her, eyes on the gravel. "You always make everything about you," June said, stabbing a finger at the banner like it wasn't literally about me. "You could have just left." "I did," I said. "The money came with me." The venue manager edged in with a clipboard. "We'll need a card for the balance," he said, soft as a nurse. June lifted her chin. "Put it on mine." Her card declined. She tried again, declined. Ryan tried his. It worked for a portion. Mom handed hers over without looking at me. Photo booth will be closed after dinner, he said to no one in particular. No late-night tacos. The planner nodded and started rearranging a schedule on a clipboard like a trough. June stared at me like I had announced winter. You're cruel, she said. No, I said, steady. I'm clear. Ryan finally spoke. Bro, not cool. I'm not your bro, I said, and that wasn't anger. It was a fact. Mom's mouth trembled, the way it does when she wants to say something that will make me 12 again. She didn't find it in time. Get out, she said. You made a sign, I said gently. I'm following directions. I walked to my car. I didn't slam the door. I sat for a minute and put my forehead on the steering wheel. Then I lifted it and drove away. The banner got smaller in the rear view. Then the road curved, and it was gone. My hands were steady on the wheel. My chest felt hollow and clean, like a room after you finally pack the boxes. I boiled pasta because boiling pasta is something predictable that ends with food. I ate standing up. I waited for regret to kick in like a late train. It didn't. The quiet felt like oxygen. At 9:12 p.m., I turned my phone back on. It tried to climb out of my hand. 29 missed calls from Mom, 17 from June, 10 from Ryan, 8 from Dad. A pile from numbers I didn't have saved. You're a monster. You embarrassed your mother. We'll never forget this. Wow. One from Aunt Leia. Sometimes the only way to stop being used is to stop being useful. Proud of you. Don't quote me. June's text came like a storm. It was a joke. Consider the sign performance art. You could have just stayed home. You owe me the taco bar. I hate you. I love you, but I hate you. Answer your phone. I didn't. Dad called. I answered. He cleared his throat. Well, I said. You did a thing. I did. I said, your mother is... He stopped. Your sister is crying. She hung a banner. I said, I know. He said, I told them not to. I'm not good at winning around here. Me neither, I said. Come by tomorrow, he said, not to apologize. For what then? To sit in the garage and stare at the mower. We can be bad at this together. Okay, I said. Sunday morning, Mom's tone shifted in text like a radio changing stations. We can talk. You made your point. You went too far. You're still my daughter. Family first. I wrote, I won't discuss money by text. She replied, this isn't about money. Everything had been about money. Ryan posted a moody photo of rain on string lights with the caption, sometimes people show you who they are. Comments flowed from strangers who think nuance is a myth. I didn't answer them. I don't argue with an audience. At noon, I walked the aisle of Dad's garage like it was a museum. He handed me a folding chair. We sat, said nothing, then too much, then nothing again. When you were 10, you saved up for a Swiss Army knife. You counted coins out loud. I told you to put them away. You said you like seeing progress. I should have listened better to the kid who liked progress. I like it because it's real, I said. He nodded at the concrete. Your sister grew up in a story someone else told about her. You grew up in a spreadsheet you had to make. We sat with that. It wasn't forgiveness. It was a sentence that fit the room. Mom showed up later with leftover cake in a plastic container. Are we done? She asked instead of hello. With what? I said. With all of this? She said, waving at the air like it was misbehaving. It's just money. It comes and goes. It comes from me and goes to you, I said. She blinked. You're being unkind. I'm being accurate, I said. She set the container down, then tugged at her sleeve like she could straighten the day. We have to look like a perfect family, she said again, out of habit. I'd settle for an honest one, I said. She looked at the banner rolled up in the corner of the garage. Dad had taken it down and leaned it like a yard sale. Mom stared at my printed face for a long time. We shouldn't have done that, she said so softly I almost missed it. Yeah, I said. June texted me Sunday night. I shouldn't have done the sign then, but you nuked my wedding then. We're done. Then, after midnight, do you still have the gift? I looked at the ceramic piece on my counter. It was ugly in a way that would make her call it camp. I typed, I'll drop it at Dad's. She sent back just a period. Work was painfully normal on Monday. A tenant complained about a humming light. A contractor tried to add a rush fee to an invoice. I said no. He said he'd never had a client talk to him like that. I said I'd never had a contractor charge me like that. We both laughed because we both knew it wasn't true. I realized I was as good at protecting my company as I had been bad at protecting myself. That changed Saturday. I kept it changed. At lunch, I opened a new note on my phone and titled it, Boundaries I Keep. No paying for events I can't attend. No, just put it on your card. No conversation about money by phone. Email only. No apologizing for no. No new family tab. I printed it and taped it inside my cabinet next to the spices. Every morning when I reached for salt, I read it out loud like I'm learning a language. By midweek, the shouting in group text turned into whispers. Cousins texted me versions of, I get it with disclaimers. Aunt Leia sent me a photo of her cat in a box with the caption boundaries. I laughed for the first time in days and didn't feel guilty about it. Saturday, I took the statue to Dad's. He opened the box, looked at it, and said, "It's hideous." We laughed. He put it on a shelf above the mower. "Let it watch over our bad decisions," he said. For once, the joke didn't clang. Mom came into the garage like a woman entering a church she didn't believe in, but needed anyway. "Dinner on Thursday?" she asked. "Just dinner? No speeches? No banner?" "No banner," she repeated, and smiled in a way that made her look closer to human than to role. Thursday dinner was awkward. Good awkward, the kind where people try new sentences and keep them in their mouths. "How's work?" she asked. I answered. She nodded and didn't pivot to optics or money. June didn't come. I didn't ask where she was. I ate chicken and said, "Thank you," and left before anyone got brave enough to drag the story back to the table. A week later, June sent a picture of a plant she'd bought. "It's dying. Help." I wrote, "Water it." She sent an eye roll and a heart. It was a truce the size of a postage stamp. I didn't become a new person after a banner in a box. I became a person who could hear her own no without flinching. That sounds small. It turned out to be the whole door. It's been a month. The official album went up. No banner. The internet trimmed the story the way the planner trimmed the schedule. People will believe the version that helps them sleep. I'm learning to stop arguing with pillows. I kept the list inside my cabinet and added one more line. I don't explain math to people who prefer magic. I read it while the kettle boils. I say it out loud sometimes quietly, like a prayer the coffee understands. Mom texts me sunsets now. Sometimes I go to dinner. Sometimes I don't. When she tiptoes toward perfect, I change the subject. Or I stand up and put on my coat. "Where are you going?" she asks. "Home," I say. She doesn't like it. She lets me. Dad keeps a folding chair in the garage for me. We sit sometimes and say nothing important. It's our language. It works. June and I are not fixed. We send each other pictures of dumb things. A dog in a tiny raincoat, a lopsided cake. Every now and then she writes, "I shouldn't have done the sign." I write back, "I shouldn't have funded so much." We don't add, but we don't fix the past. We just stop dragging it into the kitchen. If you want a moral, here's mine. If someone hangs your face at the door, don't pay for the door. If they call your boundary cruelty, that's just the echo of all the times your lack of boundary benefited them. Say no anyway. This isn't about revenge. This is about closure. Closure looked like emails I sent from a gravel lot, a sentence I printed and taped inside my wallet. It looks like me boiling pasta without doing math in my head for someone else's bill. It looks like buying 2 pastries from the shop downstairs and not saving one to prove I'm generous. I'm not the sponsor anymore. I'm the person who pays her own rent, shows up when invited, and leaves when she isn't. I'm the person who doesn't beg to be let in under a banner with her face on it.